Valendy, who I just met at Miles for Migraine in Phoenix. We had lunch together. So Jamie is the chronic migraine warrior, and she's going to talk about living with migraine. So thank you, Jamie. Let's give her, give one to me, I need it. Good to see you.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I am struggling really bad right now. So first, thank you all for being here. Thank everybody for asking how they can help today. There's not always a way to help, but I'm gonna sit here and tell my story because I think stories are really important. So I'm sorry if I end up reading a lot, my brain's not working. Please bear with me. So I'm honored to be here at this first Retreat Migraine. I know that traveling with this disease can be really hard for all of us, but we're all here, and I'm proud of everybody for being here. I know I'm gonna have trouble pacing myself through this weekend, but it's really important that we try. Whether you're attending to expand your knowledge about the disease or just to meet other people, some of the people that I've met today, I have known online for years and years, and they've been super supportive to me through my journey, and it's really exciting to see them here today. I hope that everybody can feel the strength and positive energy of being around people that get it. I'm not comfortable being up here, but I know that all of you understand, and that really, really helps. Leading up to this talk, I thought a lot about the power of our stories and personal connections that we make. What continually came to mind for me was that we all really want to be known and understood, and to know that we're not alone. Even though each of us has a unique journey, there's a lot of power in knowing that other people understand and finding those stories that resonate with our own experiences. And today I would like to share part of my story with you. I don't remember my first migraine attack. I know now that the disease was very much a part of my childhood, but I wasn't officially diagnosed till I was 16, when I was diagnosed with migraine with aura. Despite the frequent head pain and related symptoms, the attacks that actually required me to treat and rest were pretty far between. So I was able to live still. So I always had pain. I can't remember a time that I didn't, but I can remember times when it didn't interfere with my living. That all changed when I was 23. I was at the top of my game at work. My longtime boyfriend had proposed a couple months earlier. I had just presented my senior thesis at a national conference, and I was looking forward to attending graduate school the following fall. So I was basically crushing life. And on the way to visit my fiance, I was in a car accident that completely changed my life. All of my goals, hopes, and dreams were halted. My life was flipped upside down. The car accident involved a concussion and resulted in post-traumatic headache, and the migraine attacks immediately became chronic, daily, and debilitating. Suddenly, I couldn't live life the way that I had before the accident. I was unable to work or participate in normal daily activities. I held on super tightly to who I was before the accident, and I fought really hard to get my life back. And that was my goal, was to get my life back to the way it was before. I learned everything that I could about concussion, post-traumatic headache, and migraine. I tried all kinds of treatments and therapies. I made choices to try to force things back to the path I had been on. I couldn't face the thought or possibility that everything had changed in a split moment in time. I truly thought that if I learned enough and followed doctors' orders, that I would be able to quickly recover and return and move on with my life as though the accident had never happened. I was determined not to let my plans to go to graduate school be taken away from me. Less than a year after the accident, I started grad school. I didn't seek out any assistance at first because I didn't want to be viewed differently. Despite doing my best to keep up, I struggled terribly and fell behind in my classes. I had reached a point where I needed far more assistance than I wanted to accept. By the time I did seek support, it was too late to save that semester, and I ended up on academic probation. That nearly broke me, as I had always identified with my intellectual abilities, and I couldn't bear to think that I might be kicked out of graduate school. I went into the next semester with accommodations in place. I had daily pain and was learning to live life with my new husband. In the whirlwind of school and work and managing my health, I had a situation occur where I tossed out the original copy of my marriage license and my Social Security card due to some side effects of medication that I used to treat my migraines. I had my husband dumpster dive to try to find them. He was not successful in finding them, but that was definitely an evening to remember. With the help of my husband, I was able to make it through the semester and get off of academic probation, but it took everything out of me. I took a leave of absence from grad school the following semester, which was really hard, but ended up being the best choice that I ever could have made. It took me a really long time to come to terms with the fact that so many things in life were changing. My identity and picture of my future were huge question marks, and I felt disconnected from myself. I felt disconnected from other people, and I wasn't sure how to face it. I was completely lost and stuck. Nearly 2 years after the accident, I found myself weary of fighting so hard to try to get my old life back. I had reached an understanding to a certain degree that everything had changed. I don't know that it was acceptance, but it was at least knowledge that I needed to try to figure out this new normal, this new life. I needed a space to process those thoughts and feelings, and I turned to writing. Writing had always been how I processed things, and so I thought, let's do that. I'd always been really guarded, but I decided to start a blog because I had found some other people's blogs that helped me. Their stories resonated with me, and so that's what I turned to, and I started Chronic Migraine Warrior. When I started writing, I was writing for me, but I knew that other people would read it, and the support that I received was amazing. I'm looking at somebody right now that found me really early on and has been part of my journey for a long time, and the love and support really carried me through some difficult times. I started early on promising to be really raw and honest and open, which was not easy for me. You know, I wanted to hide, and being open and honest helped me process things, but it also helped other people. One of the messages that I had received said, "Your words touch me so much, and that has a significance that may be hard for you to see. But I hope you know that it helps me to know that I am never alone in my struggles, and you help voice what I experience." And there were other comments like that that just really touched me so much, and knowing that the dark times and the difficulties that I was going through were somehow helping other people, or to put a voice to what other people were experiencing. Through writing, I found myself surrounded by a community of people that understand what it's like to live with chronic pain. They didn't all have migraine, but they had some sort of pain that intruded on their lives, and they understood what I was going through. One of the things that I hear a lot about is about acceptance. And the living with chronic illness, I'd love to say that it's just a destination, like I reached acceptance and here I am. But that's not how it has been. I know people talk about like grief as being stages, but you tend to kind of move around the stages. And for acceptance for me has just been little pieces at a time. It's definitely, I don't stay there, that's for sure. It's an ongoing process. But since I first accepted, even at a basic level, that the disease was going to be part of my life, I've done my best to heal from those losses and relearn how to live life within the limitations and uncertainty of this disease. There's a lot of uncertainty with this disease. It's unpredictable. But somewhere along the line, my goal transitioned from getting my old life back to living the best life that I can with this disease. And that's been a pretty monumental transition for me. The problem with an open-ended goal like that, though, is it's a kind of a moving target. My husband and I have done our best to structure our life to be where we acknowledge the limitations, but that we still are living our best life. I know that'll look different for everybody, but little changes like going on walks together. We moved, which, like where you move to doesn't really matter, but we took it as an opportunity to kind of take a fresh start and really build the life that we wanted to in that new place. I've also tried to explore new areas of interest. I can't do all of the things that I could do before my accident. My brain doesn't allow me to do that. And so I have found new hobbies. And I think that's really important for us to try to find things that still bring us joy in life. Learning how to manage my health and live well is an ongoing journey. I also have other chronic conditions that I have to manage. For a long time, I focused only on migraine, and I kind of put all of those other things on the back burner because migraine is what takes so much in my life. But I've spent most of the last 2 years revisiting what those conditions are and doing my best to try to manage them as part of a whole. I have a wonderful team of doctors that help me to support in managing those conditions. I've built a strong support system. I don't have everything figured out at all, but I do know that I'm going to be okay. And I have some great people that remind me if I think that I'm not going to be okay, they'll remind me, and a lot of those people are here in this room. I'd like to wrap up by sharing some of the most important and powerful things that I've learned in this journey. Living with chronic pain is really hard, but it builds a strength inside that you may not want to have, but it will be there for you when you go through hard times. So when I was talking with a couple of my friends after the Miles event, Mary, we were talking about how, sometimes you find yourself in really bad situations. The pain has just taken over. And for me, when I have those moments of despair, I actually sometimes end up laying on the floor in tears. And so at this point, I've gotten to where I acknowledge that it's hard, and then I pick myself back up. I have to sometimes dig pretty deep to find that strength to do it, but living with this disease has built that strength up inside. Even when I feel weak, I can still dig in and help myself back up. I don't have to get rid of the pain and be out of the darkness to make a difference and live an amazing life. A couple of months ago, I was faced with a question that I've encountered many times before. It's something that I've struggled with how to respond to, especially since my accident. And the question was, what do you do? So it's a question we often get asked, and most people answer with whatever their career or job choice is, or if they're a parent. On my flight home from Headache on the Hill this year, just a couple months ago, the man sitting next to me sparked up a conversation, and that question came up. And I don't know exactly how I answered, but it was something along the lines of that I'm not able to work. I may have said because of health reasons, but ultimately that I was unable to work. There was a pause, because most people don't, how do you respond to that? And I felt unsettled. I felt a little gutted. I don't like answering like that, but I haven't always come up with a better way to say it. And so, but this time I felt a push. I felt a nudge, and I turned back to him, and I asked him. I said, I didn't like how that felt. Can I start over? And he said, sure. And I said, I do patient advocacy work to improve the lives of people living with headache disorders. And that response felt so much better for me. I think it felt better for him too. And I'm really proud of myself for taking that back and not just knowing that I'm more than someone that just can't work a typical job, but actually taking that opportunity to say, you know what, like, I do make a difference. And another thing is that allowing myself to be open and vulnerable has been a blessing in my life and has allowed me to make some invaluable connections and friendships. Like I said, the headache community has provided me a lot of encouragement and support over the years. I've had the opportunity to participate in some different ways and made some really amazing connections and friendships. The people that I've chosen to surround myself with help me be bolder, they help me be brave, and they help me to be me. Never in a million years would I have thought that I'd be speaking in public up here in front of everyone. But I hope that by sharing my story, it will encourage each of you to consider yours. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for allowing me to share my story with you today. And if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them or try.
Jamie did a fantastic job. Is it on? Okay. Yes.
Jamie, it's Shirley. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I think it's a good opportunity in this room. Can you talk about the transition from being disabled or, unable to advocate to what really enabled you to say, despite how I feel, I'm going to get up and do this anyway? I know you kind of talked about it, but maybe talk about also like how you felt when you were able to advocate.
I guess part of that depends on how you define advocacy.
Everybody in this room is an advocate because they showed up today.
I mean, sharing on my blog, I think, was the first step in being able to put words to what I was experiencing. And then from there, it's been more just taking opportunities as they come. So with Headache on the Hill, I'd served on the AMA board, things like that, and just choosing to step out in different ways as they've come along. I think that a lot of people think of advocacy just as like being up here and sharing your story. But even if you educate yourself and then share with your doctor something about your experience, I think that that's advocating in a way, because then that doctor is going to have that knowledge and that may help with their next patient, and then that spreads. So I think advocacy starts with however small you want it to be. And, I don't know if I'll be up here speaking again. I'm happy, I'm really happy to have been asked and to do it. But I think everybody has to find, how they feel where they fit. And sometimes that's sharing stories just with people that you know. And sometimes that's helping educate people beyond, that you just run into that are interested in it. I don't know that answered your question, Shirley. Thanks for putting me on the spot, though.
Does anybody else have a question for Jamie?
Jamie, one of the things I really related to that you talked about is for a lot of us who, I went chronic at 54, but the identity that we have as an alpha type, or we've had successful careers or are still in our successful careers, and you talked about having to reinvent yourself, which one takes acceptance of what the limitations are now, which is huge, and I know a lot of people never even get beyond that point. But developing the new identity as you move or take some life event and say, okay, I'm going to restructure how I think of myself and what's expected of me. So I could really relate to that part of your talk of we still want to be out there and doing things, but it has to be done in a different way that doesn't incapacitate us completely.
Right.
So I appreciate you focusing on that, because a lot of us have academic jobs or highly intellectual jobs, or gosh, even just running a home, it's
Right.
with kids, it takes energy.
Yes.
So thanks for talking about that, because a lot of people don't talk about that loss
Right.
of
Right.
identity. Yeah.
And I mean, with my journey, I didn't have a career in place that I had worked my entire life. It was all based on what I had envisioned for my life in that moment. And having only been a year and a half out of college, my identity, it's just a little bit different journey. And I think it's really interesting to speak with people that came from a point where their career was taken away from them versus just these abstract hopes and dreams that you have. But it's all part of our identity, and it is often ignored or not talked about because you're focused on other ways that the disease is taking from you, I guess. And so sometimes that gets pushed aside as not important, but it's super important. You're doing a good job, Katie.
My name is Renee. I think in speaking about the strength that everybody has who deals with chronic pain in whatever way, shape, or form, it's very interesting in how other people view you and view your strength when you feel weak sometimes, because your perspective living it every day is, I can't take anymore, it hurts too much, I lost my job because of it, well, I got fired because of it, but whatever that may be. And I was on vacation by myself and sliced into my forefinger and had to go to the ER by myself in a strange city.
Oh.
And I had wrapped it up and put a plastic first aid glove on. And I got to the ER, and the triage nurse looks at it and goes, "This is really bad." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "How did you know to do this?" And I said, "Well, it's what you do."
Right.
And he goes, "I would have people in here, screaming that this hurt so much." I went, "This is nothing."
That's right.
I said, "I live with chronic migraine every single day." I said, "Yeah, this hurts,
Yeah.
but it's a totally different kind of pain."
Yeah.
And how people perceive that.
Right.
And your family, your friends, your coworkers, your boss, your just everybody around you. It's completely, completely different.
It
and
is.
Perspective is everything.
Very true. Thank you for sharing that. That's very true, because, different pains hurt differently, too. Like, sometimes I'll have something happen, and I'm like, that shouldn't hurt as bad. Like, we're talking about, like, stubbing my toe. But it's a different pain. But, yeah. If you live in survival mode a lot, too, you sometimes just, like, you just, like, wrapped up your finger, and you're like, I don't know that I knew how to do that. Right, you just do it because that's what you do.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up what you were talking about before about acceptance. And just to add a little bit to it, that it's acceptance that the body has changed. And because it's changed, we need to change with it.
Right.
And it's a whole different concept of just giving in to the acceptance that this is horrible, I'm always going to live with this pain.
Right.
Because it's just telling you that it's just the normal process of change in the body. And then once you reach that part, then you go into that recreation of being able to, create yourself as you are now in the body that you are now. And there was just one other thing I just wanted to say about the discussion on suicide is that it's normal for people in chronic pain to think about suicide. It's very, very normal. The majority of us think about suicide a lot. And that's not the problem. The problem is when you start having a plan. But a lot of times people will go to the doctor saying, I'm thinking of killing myself, and they want to commit you. But it's just the normal thing that you don't want to die. You want the pain to stop.
Right.
And that's where they miss the mark. Yeah.
That's great. Anybody else? Okay.
Yeah, I can handle something. And then you? Who's
No,
going
no, no.